It's the Daily Dog.
Hey, y'all, welcome back to the Daily Doug. I am thankful that you are joining me today. On today's episode, it's going to be a bit of a departure from what we normally do. This episode is going to have more of a somber note to it, and I hope that it'll be cathartic for all of us today. Over this past weekend, the world received the news that Taylor Hawkins, the longtime drummer of the Foo Fighters, had tragically and suddenly passed away. And it came as a great shock to me. And I got the news on Saturday morning. And over on our Discord, the Daily Doug Discord, we spent the day on Saturday just grieving and spending some Foo Fighters music and chatting about our love of the band and our sadness that Taylor had died. And so I wanted to program an episode this week where we just take some time out and we listen to some Foo's music. We'll get to that in a little bit. And we just reminisce and kind of celebrate the memories that we have of Taylor and of his music making with the Foo Fighters. Taylor had a 25-year career with the Foo Fighters as drummer and as occasional singer. I didn't know this until just recently, but he previously had drummed with Alanis Morissette before joining the Foo Fighters. The band was all set to perform in Bogota, Colombia, when Taylor complained of chest pains. An ambulance was dispatched, but resuscitation efforts were unsuccessful. He was 50 years old, y'all. He looked like he was 30, and he looked like he had, at least in my opinion, he had the energy of a 20-year-old. So the fact that he's gone seems like it's just not possible. But sadness kind of rules the day here. A preliminary toxicology report found a variety of substances in his body, but an official cause of death has not been given at the time that I'm taping this. So I needed some help, y'all. I am a casual fan of the Foo Fighters. I have much respect for Dave Grohl and for the guys in the band, but in this instance, I felt like I needed to reach out to consult a Foo Fighters superfan. So I called on one of our longtime friends, Brian, who has been a real fan of the Foo Fighters for a long, long time, and he's a real thoughtful person. And so I'm going to share a conversation that I had with Brian last night as we talk about this tragedy and about some ways that we can potentially deal with it and process it, and then we'll get to a couple of selections from the Foo Fighters. So here's my conversation with my good friend Brian. Okay, y'all. Brian is one of our longtime friends and a super fan of the Foos, and is gracious enough to join me today. I wish it were under better circumstances, Brian.
Only call me when megastars and lose their lives,
You
Doug.
know, but I do
So
follow you on Twitter, so at least I get the goods on a daily basis. But yeah, it's been too long since we've seen you in person. Brian and his family are friends of ours from the Kansas City days, and I know that you have been a big time fan of the Foo Fighters for a long time. What was it since the beginning of their career? What initially drew you to be a fan of the Foos?
well, being a hardcore Gen Xer, and I was just, I can't necessarily say that right away I was like a super Nirvana fan,
Mm,
but man, I listened to Nevermind still in 2022, and I'm like, man, this album is still just so timeless and so classic, and
mm,
it's just like a moment in the ethos in music. And so like that was kind of my thing. And then losing Kurt sucked, and
mm.
then I was in college radio at the time when Foo Fighters was forming, and so that
Okay.
was like, 95 is when that first album came out, and I was like, okay, this is kind of cool, it's kind of wacky. And I was like, I'm a drummer from Nirvana's making a thing, and I was like, oh, I did a Mentos spoof, all right, cool. And then Color and the Shape dropped in 97, which was their second album. That had My Hero, that had Everlong, that had
It's when they
Monkey
really
Wrench.
grew
Like,
up, right?
yeah,
You
that was
know?
when they just exploded. And Taylor actually Taylor was not the original drummer for the Foo Fighters. I don't know if a lot of people know that. I mean, that first album Dave recorded in his basement and released it, and then they're like, "This is great," and he's like, "They said you should go on tour," and he's like, "Oh, I don't have a band." So that's where we got Nate Mendel and William Goldsmith from Sunny Day Real Estate, and that was the original trio. And and I think Fran Stahl was in there. I'm getting super nerdy. That's super nerd stuff.
That's okay, man. That's why we're here.
So by the time the second album rolled around, William Goldsmith was not kind of jiving with them, and so he dropped out of the band, and they re-recorded all the drum tracks. And right before they went on tour, that's when Taylor came into the fold of the Foo Fighters. So that was like circa 1997. And I don't know if you know this, but Taylor Hawkins was the drummer for Alanis Morissette. He's the drummer in You Ought to Know.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So Dave called him and because they kind of casually knew each other. He's like, "Hey man, I'm looking for a drummer. Like, do you know anybody?" And Taylor was like, "Bro, that's me. Like I don't want to be like I don't want to be backing a solo act. I want to be a part of a band."
Cool.
And that's how Taylor joined Foo Fighters.
Awesome.
And that was in 1997, and they became super fast friends. And
so were you a Dave Grohl fan then back in the Nirvana days, or were you just a casual fan of Nirvana?
I mean, I was like casual fan plus of Nirvana. You know, I was hardcore. I was a heavy metal guy, and I was a Guns N' Roses guy and a Metallica guy. And then when grunge came around, though, like Nirvana was my grunge band. Nirvana, Stone Temple Pilots.
Sure.
And so that was my band. Those were my bands. And so then when the wacky guy from Nirvana started a silly band and called it Foo Fighters, which is a stupid name, and started writing these catchy, hooky, kind of grungy, kind of grindy, kind of poppy rock songs. I was like, okay, I dig it.
Yeah.
And then like Monkey Wrench and My Hero those are the songs that cemented them in my heart.
So I've since I follow you on social media, I know for a fact that you have attended many concerts of the Foos. Do you have a favorite story or a favorite memory from seeing them live?
You know, I've seen Foo Fighters 9 times. The most recent was this past late summer, early fall of last year, right after kind of pandemic, and it was kind of becoming not quite so nervous. And we caught them at an outdoor venue here in Kansas City.
Cool.
I took my boy with me. My youngest child, he turned 14. He's seen the Foo Fighters 3 times, I think, already.
Awesome.
I think the first time I took him he was like not even 8 years old, and I took him to the Sprint Center to see Foo Fighters. And we just broed out, right?
That's cool.
And so he's tiny, like he's still tiny. So he has to stand on the arms of chairs at concerts. And like, so I hook my arm around him, and he's just like, just jamming out and rocking out and like hanging on to him. And like, we left that show and I was like, "Bro, that was so amazing." And he's like, "Bro, we should do that forever." It's like, I was like, every time Foo Fighters are in town, man, it's like you and me. I was like, I don't care how old you are. It's like you and me. That's our jam. That's going to be our thing. And he's like, "Yeah." So Jack and I have seen Foo Fighters 3 times together. Cool. That's super rad. The other time kind of musically that impressed me was I saw him in Council Bluffs, Iowa, because what I would do is because I would see him like in Kansas City, and then I would see him in Omaha. I'd see him twice on the same tour.
Right.
And Motorhead was set to open for him, and I was super pumped to see Motorhead. And like one member of Motorhead made it. Like there was flight delays.
Wow.
And like one person from Motorhead made it. It was not Lemmy. So who knows anybody else from Motorhead? So the Foo Fighters just played like an extra hour and 15 minutes. They played like a 3-hour, 45-minute set. They're like, "Sorry, Motorhead's not here. I guess we'll just go on now.
We'll just play some more songs. That's fine."
Played their set. They jammed into Ace of Spades. And that was the only Motorhead song you really needed to see.
Sure.
And so yeah, it was like a 3.5-hour, 3.45-hour show. It was amazing. It was great.
You know, your story about you and Jack reminds me of my friend Gerard. We went to the Dream Theater show together, and he had the experience of taking his sons to like their first Rush show. They got to see Rush before they stopped touring. And in Dream Theater and a whole bunch of other like power bands. It's amazing that you get to bond that way. You know, but
I'm taking my oldest teenager to a show tomorrow night, you know, or it's some like solo musical artist from Europe somewhere named
Cool.
Girl in Red.
Cool.
Okay, all right. I'll be the only like straight white person over the age of 35 at this show, but I'm gonna wear my like free dad hugs rainbow flag T-shirt
There you
and
go.
hug all the gay kids that don't have a dad that will hug them. So
You're great. You're it's awesome. Awesome.
that's my role. I love hugs.
Yeah. And what fun it will be, right? Well, you know, I have seen your film that you made. Y'all might not know this. Brian is a wonderful filmmaker, and you made a film. Gosh, when did Famous Last Words come out? Was that
2014, 2015, around there? Yeah.
I mean, that's a film that deals with death and how those of us that are still here cope with that, and how we interact with, you know, our memories of that person based on specifically in that film, last conversations, whether they were cathartic or what we, you know, needed, or were less than what we needed. From going through all of that and some of the experiences that you've had in your life that led you to be interested in pursuing that, you know, what do you learn from that experience of going through that can maybe help provide context for fans of the band in a moment like this where there's sudden loss?
Yeah. First of all, I tell everybody that your grief is your grief. Your mourning is your mourning. And when somebody tells you that you shouldn't be mourning over the loss of a drummer from a band that you've never met in person, like that's your loss, that's your grief. And if it affects you, that's going to affect you. And that's true because that person has a bond with you, whether it's a physical, like emotional thing where you've met in real life, or we're just internet Zoom friends, right?
Sure.
But you still feel that loss. So you can mourn however you want, however long you want, over whomever you want. So that's the first thing I tell people. The other thing that I kind of had to tell myself over and over, and it's a thing I tell people a lot when they're struggling with a loss, is especially a loss with somebody that's younger, right? When it's great grandpa and they're in their 80s or 90s and you expect it, like it doesn't hurt as much as like when it's somebody that's Taylor's age who is 50 years old.
Right.
And I tell people that it's very easy to dwell on all the new memories that you won't get to make with this person, right? I'm never going to be able to see Taylor Hawkins perform live again. I'm never going to be able to see him do Somebody to Love while Dave sits on the drums, right? I'm never going to see that again. But what I tell people is, instead of focusing on the memories that you don't have or that you will not build in the future, let's focus on 20 plus years of music that Taylor did share with us. Let's focus on all the great times and live in those moments as precious.
Yeah.
You know, because there's a finite number of it, right? There's a limited number of times that I will have with Dave and Taylor, right? Yeah. So you know, the time when I crowd surfed, the very first time I saw Foo Fighters, I crowd surfed for the first and only time.
If I tried to crowd surf, I'd be like Chris Farley. It would be like the Red Sea, man.
That happened. That's what happened.
What?
I'm up there. Woo! Woo! Crowd parted. Gray concrete turned, rolled onto my shoulder. Bam! Right? I roll over. I look. There's just people looking down on me like, bro. And I go, rock and roll! And they're like, yeah! And like, I got up and I like went through the rest of the show. And then I went back to my seat and I was like, oh, damn, that really, like the adrenaline's wearing off. And this was, but like, that was my first Foo Fighters show, right?
This is why I buy loge seats. I need to stay above the mosh pit.
Oh no, we had them. We went down and then we returned back. So yeah.
Man.
like the moments that you have built, just because that person is gone, just because that person is not on planet Earth anymore, does not mean that all the great memories and all the love and all the music, that shit doesn't go away, right? There's still Cold Day in the Sun, and there's still the DGs record that they just put out, right? They just put out a Bee Gees cover record. There's the Studio 666 movie that they just released, which is campy fun. It was amazing. We saw it in a movie theater, just me and my family. We were the only ones there.
You were
laughing and screaming at the screen. So that's another memory, right?
I need to see
All
it.
these things,
I need to see
they
it.
don't go away.
It's going to be a
They're
cult
here, they're here.
classic. You know, that movie is going to be no matter like what it is, it's going to be an absolute classic.
Oh yeah.
You know?
And now like with the additional, like it came out like a month before Taylor's untimely death, like
Yeah.
it's a thing, and Taylor was great in it, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a fun campy movie, but like that's the thing I learned from Famous Last Words, you know, is that's it's the loss doesn't take anything away from the things that you've already had and that you've already experienced.
Yeah.
So, you know, every time I see the Foo Fighters, I get a little emotional, you know, because I know it's going to be like a year or two before I see him again.
Yeah.
So then now with Taylor's passing, I'm kind of thinking back like, gosh, are they going to keep going?
Right.
Like, who knows? Like Foo Fighters is Dave's band. Like if you ask anybody else, it's Dave's band, right? But if you ask Dave, he's going to say it's everybody's band. But if you really pressed him, he'd say it's me and Taylor. That's the driving force. Like that's the guts. That's the engine that drives Foo Fighters. Well, I don't know what's going to happen.
You've got a world-class drummer who lost his front man and then became a front man, and then he lost his drummer. I mean, I can only imagine the psychological stuff that Dave's going through right now. And my heart goes out to him and everybody affiliated with the band, you know.
Yeah, Taylor's wife and kids. You know, Dave's best friend Jimmy, who he talks about a lot, he also lost that guy. Dave played with Kurt Cobain for like 4 years, right? He was barely in Nirvana. He's been with Taylor since 1997. Yeah. So that bond between the two of them is way deeper than him and Kurt. And let's not leave out Pat Smear, who was like the fourth member of Nirvana. Right. He's been in Foo Fighters off and on for the past 20 years. He was in the Germs and lost his lead singer in the Germs. Pat Smear's lost 3 people that were in bands with him. So like, you know, like it's the story of the Foo Fighters is not just the story of Dave. And I think that's kind of an important thing to do too. It's not, oh, poor Dave, he's lost another friend. Like everybody has lost a friend in Taylor Hawkins.
I'm noticing your artwork behind you there. That's Admiral Dave.
Admiral Dave. Yeah. I got that on like Etsy or something or Redbubble or something. And I got like the most giant version of it I could find, and then it's like an awkward size, so I had to get like a custom frame. It was way more expensive than I thought it should.
Well, now it's there and it's never gonna leave, right?
No, Admiral Dave watches me work. He keeps me on.
There you go. Well, lastly, you know, so here's my dilemma. We're gonna listen to some music by the Foos, and I need to come to a decision. So if you were going to have a drink and listen to a Foo Fighters song and toast Taylor, what song or maybe taped video performance, live performance, would you go to? What comes to mind?
I can do a couple. Taylor's cover of Somebody to Love. Amazing. Taylor's cover of Rock and Roll from the Wembley tour. They did live at Wembley, and not John Paul Jones. Is it John? Both the other guys from Led Zeppelin come out and play it. John Paul Jones and who's the guitar player from? I love that one. And then like my personal like go-to all-time favorite Foo Fighters song, the one that makes me cry, the one that makes me happy because it's they play it near the end of every show, and that makes me sad because I know the show's almost over. Yeah. It's the song that I tattooed on my arm. Can you see it?
There it is.
Oh. There. I don't know. It's a weird angle.
There it is.
Were You Born to Resist or Be Abused? The Best of You will always be my favorite song. I told my family there will never be a better song that I love more than that song. It means the world to me. It means is somebody getting the best of you? And it means two things. It means, are they getting the best of you? Are they taking advantage of you? Or are they getting all of you? Are they getting your best? And that's how I live my life. I want to make sure that I'm true to myself and true to my family, and I want to give them everything I can. I want to give them the best of me. So those are my 3 Foo Fighter picks: 2 Taylors and a Dave.
Well, I'll see if I can include some of those. We're recording this on Monday night, and I'm going to record the rest of the episode tomorrow and put it out on Tuesday. So I will raise a glass and we'll pay tribute, and we'll commiserate, and we'll listen to some Foos music. So
awesome. Yeah. It's going to take me a little while. I have to like tiptoe back into it. It's still a little sore. It's a little rough, but I'll get there. Yeah.
Well, this has been great perspective, Brian. I appreciate you coming on and chatting with me for a while, because it's a band that I know and I appreciate and I respect, but I'm not like, I haven't been following the band for a long time like you have, and so this is helpful. And it's wonderful to chat with you, friend. So thanks, and we'll see you down the line.
Thank you. Good luck, and hi to all your nerdy music friends.
Helvering's army. Represent well.
You have an army,
Yep. So yeah, it's Helvering's army is and then like my top tier patrons, we call it the Council of Dougs.
Oh my God,
it's fun.
That's awesome.
It's so much fun. So thanks again, and best to you and the fam.
Thank you. Say hi to your wife, and maybe I will see you guys here in a couple of weeks.
That sounds good. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Brian. Always thoughtful, and I very much appreciate Brian coming on and chatting with us, and some wonderful thoughts and words from Brian. Brian brought up a few tracks that we potentially could look at. He brought up Somebody to Love. I have looked at that, and it's wonderful, but I chose not to do that one today. He also brought up Rock and Roll, the Led Zeppelin cover, and that one is worthy as well. However, it was my wife, Megan, as we were looking last night at some different special things that Taylor had done in live concerts that we found Under Pressure. The Foos doing this cover of the classic Queen song with David Bowie, and they've got Roger Taylor there on the drums. So let's go to that one. It's going to be three of the most iconic drummers of the last few decades on the stage at the same time, singing this classic song by Queen. So here is the Foos and Roger Taylor singing Under Pressure. Here we go.
Can I introduce someone? One of the reasons that I am here tonight, besides my mother and father, is a guy named Roger Taylor from Queen. When I was 10 years old,
Taylor definitely did not steal my pants.
My older sister took me to go see Queen.
Those are all
concert,
Taylor.
The first concert I ever saw. And I watched the fucking drummer, and I said, I want to fucking be him. I want to do that. And, well, my mentor is here tonight. Mr. fucking Roger Taylor.
I picked this one because he talks about his inspiration, his mentor, right?
Is that all right?
What a great choice of a mentor.
Here's one Vanilla Ice stole from Queen. We're taking it back.
No comment. Just wanted to pick this one because I think it has a lot of meaning in this circumstance. I wonder how much pressure these guys feel on a daily basis. You know, it's exciting to go out and perform. But the pressure of performing for that many people, I wonder how it affects somebody. It's hard to cover a Freddie vocal.
Rod, you got this one?
Oh, Roger's gonna sing.
Oh, yeah.
Classic song, just in D. Down the scale. B, A, over C sharp, B minor to A, and then this extended sort of predominant. They go from the G to the A and just kind of lengthen this culmination of this phrase.
Turn away from it all.
Turned away from it all like a blind man sat on a fence, but it don't work. It's a philosophical song, y'all. I think one of the things that they're talking about this is that as we gain knowledge about our world, we grow sadder at what it actually is. You know, like knowledge begets sorrow. And we feel trapped inside of it. We can feel trapped inside of it. And then, yeah, can't we give ourselves one more chance? Give love, give love, give love. So, you know, as we try to escape the pressures of this world, the best thing we can do is to mitigate it with love and just try to live with it as best we can. This is us under pressure. This is ourselves under pressure. That's what they're talking about. And it can be overwhelming. Is ourselves under pressure.
Shit's not easy to sing. Snap your fucking fingers. Do it. 1, 2, 3. Under pressure. Under pressure.
This tonic to dominant.
Pressure. Fucking Roger Taylor. You're welcome, motherfuckers. Yes. Roger Taylor from Queen, come on now.
Awesome. Absolutely awesome.
He's the fucking
Classic
king,
song. Classic. Absolutely classic song.
That's crazy.
And you know, the way that they perform that,
Oh my God.
you know, they understand what that song's about. I mean, that was written by...
Thank you, good night.
Cool. That was written by Queen and David Bowie and released back in 1981. And so these musicians that travel the world and do this for a living, it's a different type of pressure. It's a small, I think, group of people that really truly understand what that sort of lifestyle is like. I certainly do not. I have traveled rarely to be a traveling musician, and they're wonderful experiences, but it's tiring. It really is. And especially if people are paying quite a bit to see you, it can wear on you. And it takes, you have to balance the joy of performing with the responsibility of that being your job. And it's tough sometimes. Turned away from it all like a blind man sat on a fence, but it don't work. Keep coming up with loves, but it's so slashed and torn. Why? I hope that what happened to Taylor wasn't the result of him seeking to escape the pressures of this world, but just, he got caught up maybe trying to cope with it the best way that he could. It's just so darn sad, y'all. But my friend Brian had some wonderful things to say about what we can do in times like these. And that's to focus on the memories that and the experiences that we have had with these folks and keep them close to our hearts and celebrate them instead of trying to focus on and grieve for the future circumstances and experiences that we won't have now. That in this specific instance that Taylor, has passed on. I found a quote from the last few days from Roger Taylor. Roger said, quote, he was speaking of Roger, speaking of Taylor. He was a kind, brilliant man and an inspirational mentor to my son, Rufus, and the best friend one could ever have. He went on to say that Taylor's death is like losing a favorite brother. And that's a neat little insight, too. I mean, with Roger being a mentor to Taylor, and then Taylor almost being a mentor to Roger's son. and this camaraderie through musicianship. But I want to leave y'all today with Brian's favorite song of the Foos, and I think a wonderful one for us to listen to, "The Best of You." And I have a live recording of it, and it goes like this. Here we go.
I've got another confession to make.
Just right into it.
I'm your fool.
I've never seen him live,
Got the chains to break.
and now I'm caught sort of grieving that I won't get that chance with the classic lineup. But we have these wonderful videos
When someone get in the bed,
to help spur us.
the best of you. When someone get in the bed, the best of you.
They're in E.
Are you
That's C sharp minor.
on to someone new? I needed somewhere to hang my head without short news. You're giving something that I didn't have, but I know you. I was too weak to do that.
Everything I've seen Dave Grohl do
My heart is under arrest.
shows a person that seems to be really connected to his surroundings and just reacting humbly and living his best life despite the heartache that he's gone through. And he was the drummer for Nirvana and lost his frontman, and now, and that was relatively short-lived. He and Taylor have been together with this band for 25 years.
Someone take it back. It's real. The pain you feel. You tell you right. Someone get it back. The best of you.
It's a caution. Make sure that somebody doesn't get the best of you, but it's also an encouragement that make sure that people also get your best. And that's what I think the magic of this song is. There's the 4/4. As someone taking your faith, it's real, the pain you feel, the life, the love you die to heal, the hope that starts the broken hearts, your trust you must confess is someone getting the best of you. Look at their connection. Such a genuine smile. And by all accounts, from every account that I've read of people paying tribute over the last few days, not a negative thing to say from anybody about Taylor. This track has some more time in it. Wonder what they're gonna do now. It's an emotional thing. If you really believe what you're singing and playing, like, and you're in the moment, it's overwhelming.
I'm no fool. I'm getting tired of starting again. Somewhere new. Where you wanna resent?
Dave's line, he's getting tired of starting again.
I swear I'll never
I wonder what's in store for the band, for Dave. Just hope the best for all of them and for Taylor's family. It's real, the pain you feel, your trust you must confess. It's just letting out frustration. Nice.
Thank you very much, dear!
Well, you know, I've done episodes like this in the past, y'all. Most recently, we grieved for the loss of David Longdon, the lead singer of Big Big Train. One of my other episodes I remember well for just paying tribute to Stephen Sondheim, one of my heroes as a composer. And it's just part of the human condition, right? Death is a part of the cycle of life, and for those of us that are left behind, it's always an exercise in coping and in contextualizing and just adding this reality to our experience. And so this is our new reality. Rest in peace, Taylor Hawkins, and thank you for decades of wonderful musicianship and smiles and just driving us when we need some rhythmic undergirding. And my thoughts go out to Dave and the band and all of the fans of the Foo Fighters during this time. And I offer this episode with humility and just with respect for the band and for everybody that follows their music and their career. And yeah, it's a sad thing, tragic thing. But on we go, my friends, and thankfully we have a lot of great music from the Foo Fighters to listen to as we continue on in this life. So thanks to all of you for joining me today. Thank you to my friend Brian for hanging out and chatting with me today. It was very helpful, I think, for me. And thanks to all of you. And we will see you next time on another edition of The Daily Doug.